NICU blanket, or I'm going to give you a little bit of thought and advice about how to make a NICU blanket. And this is some my first time doing this, as I just had 2 grandchildren that are twins that were born last Thursday, and they are in the NICU. And so with COVID and everything, you can't, as grandparents, we can't go in and see the babies, just mom and dad can, which is great. I'm glad they're keeping the babies safe and everything. So we are going to make something that kind of looks like what mom has designed for their little nursery and their little layette. So it's Deanna from Stitches Quilting, and I'm in Salt Lake City, Utah, and I just had 2 grandchildren that are twins. They were born on Thursday. The little baby boy, James, is 3 pounds 9 ounces, and Emmy is 3 pounds 1 ounce. And you know, babies lose just a little bit of weight. So now Emmy is about 2 pounds. So we are going to make a little NICU blanket as they are going in and out of the nursery for the NICU, and they're going to be there for just a little while as they get strong enough to bring home. So I wanted to make something wonderful that is really a reflection of mom and dad and the family and what their little nursery looks like. So hi Shelly, it's so good to see you. So let's go ahead and we're going to make just a small blanket. Now, has anyone else made a NICU blanket? What I have researched, and I even called the hospital to ask, is a lot of their blankets are just 24 inches by 36 inches. And they're just laying across the top of the little NICU unit. So we are going to work with squares that are 3.5 inches that are raw. It's going to be a 3-inch square. But I'm going to start off some of the half square triangles as 4.5 inches. Now, if you, and I'm going to give you a little tip here, if you make a square, hi Joyce and hi Jane, it is so good to see you. And yes, Ellie has seen pictures of, she can't go into the NICU either, but Ellie, the 2-year-old granddaughter, she has seen pictures, and we FaceTimed the babies in the NICU, and so she made some little pictures of their little toes, well, I helped her, of the teeny tiny little toes that they have, and the diaper that James was wearing, and the 5 fingers, and she made a picture of James and Emmy, and then Ellie herself, and then she did her mom and dad with 5 fingers and 5 toes. So it's pretty cute. So anyways, yes, they do drape the isolette is what they're in. And so in the isolette, they just kind of drape it over so there's not too much light where the babies are sleeping and things like that. And then they kind of lift them up, and they do different things. But for this NICU, they're using almost the size of like a pillowcase across the top of it to just kind of dampen the amount of light that's coming in. Let's go ahead and change the camera angle. Oh, sorry guys. I'm going to change the camera angle to the top view right here. And let me go ahead and see exactly what you're seeing. There we go. So what we're going to do, and just for your information, I am wanting to work with 3.5 inches square. So, but we are going to make a half square triangle that goes ahead, and where I've drawn along this white sheet of, or this white piece of fabric, and I've drawn a marking with a pencil, and we're going to go ahead and do a 1/4 inch seam along each side of this line right here on the sewing machine. So let me go ahead and just start that. But I have a question for you guys. If you are working, say that I want these, my triangles, to end up being 3.5 inches square, what size would you start out, since this is going to make 2 triangles? Does anybody know the formula for when you take 2 squares together and you make 2 half square triangles? Let me go ahead and show you. So I'm going to use, let me switch my 1/4 inch foot on this. I pulled that out for last week. So I have been watching Ellie. Mom had a C-section, and so I've been watching Ellie kind of nonstop since Thursday until last night, and their dogs, along with my husband Corey. So we're going to go ahead and stitch this. I'm going to show you. So we are, and I'm using a cream thread. I hope that you can see this a little bit better. I'm going to hold this up to the camera. So I've been watching them just non-stop. Hi Jenny, it's good to see you. But I am ready to sew and kind of give as much of my little bit of love from a distance for these little babies that will be in there for, I kind of pulled that little thread. Let me pull that a little bit straighter. Okay, so you can see right here, I have my pencil line right down the center, and then I've done a cream stitching line 1/4 of an inch from that. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut on this pencil line. So my goal is to get to a 3.5 inch square. In order to do that, hi Victor, hello Jenny, hi Joyce, Jane. So in order to do that, we need to make our square 7/8 of an inch larger than what we want. So what I did is I'm aiming for a 3.5 inch square, finished half square triangle. So I have cut these just 4.5 inches square, okay? Because you're gonna lose about 7/8 of an inch when you do this method. So I just go ahead, 7/8 of an inch really is just about 1 inch. So we're just moving that up just ever so slightly. Let me grab my smaller pad here since we're dealing with small little squares for little babies. Now the babies will most likely grow pretty quickly. Let me grab my iron. So let's go ahead and measure this. We are now going to go ahead and I'm going to take I can set my seams right here. Let's go ahead and set the seams that we have of our 2 squares. And then I'm going to have my darker fabric. I'm going to press to the darker side. So you can see that I've pressed over my seam to the darker side of the fabric, not that cloud white. So you can see how pretty of a square that is right there. And we're going to go ahead and press this one open here. My daughter-in-law, since she's got a little boy and girl, is kind of doing like a neutral set. So she's using grays and tans, and then she's using just a little bit of blue and a little bit of pink. So that's what we're going to do here. So here we are. We started with a 4.5 inch square, 2 pieces of fabric, right sides together. Okay, so now let's go ahead and mathematically look at this. So we want this square to end up being 3.5 inches big, all right? So we are gonna go ahead and measure this. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're just about 4 inches. So we've given us a little bit more space, but I wanna show you how we are actually going to scale this down. When we do this, we wanna make sure we are respecting our diagonal line in the center. So we are wanting to bring this down to 3.5 inches square. So I'm gonna just pull this over and I'm gonna clean off this little side. So I'm matching my 45-degree angle right here with, because I'm gonna square these down, I am just going ahead and I'm gonna match that 45-degree angle on my ruler. So you can see on your rulers, if you haven't already noticed, you'll have like a 30-degree angle, a 45-degree angle, and a 60-degree angle. I'm gonna match this 45-degree angle to my angle of my triangle, and I'm gonna clean this off so I'm just right at 3.5 inches square. So I just wanted to show you guys that if you're working on your own, that how you would maybe square something else up like that. Now I'm gonna go ahead and square this so these are just right touching at that top. I have a 3.5 inch ruler, so I really don't have a problem you know, kind of squaring these up just real quickly. And that definitely works for me. So once again, I'm looking at this 45-degree angle and I'm matching that right up, and I'm gonna just trim these down. So what I'm going to do, because I definitely want a true 3.5 inch square. So you can see right here, and I can use this with my rotating mat with my 3.5 inch square triangle. So we are going from this size down to this size. So can you see that right there? And then my finished size of these as I'm sewing will be, it will go ahead and be a 3 inch square, but we're gonna be working with 3.5 inch squares. I'm starting with 4 inches or 4.5 inches right at the beginning. So let's go ahead and match up a couple of these. I'm gonna show you guys how I string feed these through. so that we can make this a little bit faster of a product. Okay, Barbara, she says, I hope you post this as a video so I can rewatch it. You absolutely can. Arlene, they are not blankets, they are quilts out of fabric. Blankets are out of yarn like crocheting and knitting. Arlene, that's such a great point. I like that. Joyce says, oh, nursery ICU, that I can understand. This is a wonderful, what you are doing for the babies. Yes, you know, they've been hooked up to like a little CPAP machine. They've been hooked up to oxygen. They've been hooked up with a little feeding tube. And so sometimes it's hard to see those little tiny babies as your own babies, right? For the parents. And I know my son's like, you know, I just don't see myself in these babies, but they have been taken off the CPAP machines. They are on just regular room air right now. They do have like an oxygen nasal thing on, but they're just throwing in some room air for James. Emmy is just getting a light little bit, but let me show you how I'm string feeding these together, because these are going to be such pretty squares. And what I'm going to do for this little NICU blanket, yes, a natal ICU blanket, is the top will be patched, and then the back will have a slightly darker fabric. So I won't go too dark for this little layette that they're using, but the dark will be a little bit darker. So, and I will not put any batting in the center of these layers. So then that way, so let me go ahead and take this off. And I'm going to show you guys, you can see how I fed these through, just string feeding along this pencil line with that little stitch line right there. So we are not going to put in any batting in the center of these because they don't need to produce heat. They just need to block out the sunshine. So we could actually use like a piece of flannel on the back that's just slightly thicker. We can, and just have a small light patchwork on the top. And I think this will help Ashley, mom and dad, to just feel like a little bit of their vibe is in that nursery environment with all of the medical equipment that's sitting there. It's the only thing I can think of doing that can help, right? So I went ahead and I strung fed these little sections right here. Once again, I'm going to go ahead and just take my ruler. Oh, Barbara, as a mom of preemies, this is priceless. Yes, I hope that this helps, especially during COVID times. As a grandma, you're just not able to really get in there and see them, or, really ask questions or anything like that, which it really is up to the parents to be doing this. But I just want to be able to give the parents just a little bit of a vibe that they've got. I'm going to be watching Ellie today as they go in, and we did have, while I was watching Ellie over the course when they were in the hospital, I did drive her around to see the other grandparents, and the other grandparents took turns. So it's really nice that they've got an amazing support network of lots of people to help. So I went ahead and I sliced that apart. And we're going to just press these again so that we're going to the lighter side. So our square here will be a 24-inch by 36-inch quilt top that will just lay over the top of the isolette. So it's like the little bed that they keep the babies in to just maintain their temperature and give them more of that womb-like feeling. So Ashley, her water broke. So her water just broke Thursday morning at 4 a.m. She called me. Corey and I, we ran over there and got them to the hospital. And within hours, they delivered those babies C-sections. So we're so glad that they're here and that they're safe and that they can be in a safe environment as they're nurtured to be strong enough to be in the home. So we're really excited for them and for this little family. Cute little Ellie. Can't quite understand everything, but I do adore her little picture of her drawing everybody. So, okay, so now let's talk about how we're going to lay these out. We can easily just lay these out just like this, and then match these together and just have just a beautiful, soft, little layette going along. So I'm going to go ahead and go to stitching more of these together, and you guys can go ahead and see what that looks like. Of course, we're going to be working with this 3.5-inch square, and I always like my squares to be really, really square, so I am making these a bit larger than I actually need to. So anyways, you guys, I'm going to keep sewing, but I do have to pick up Ellie at 1 o'clock as they're going to go to the NICU, the neonatal ICU, to go visit those babies and love on them and help them know that their mommy and daddy is there, even though they're not there at the hospital. So love you guys tons. This is so fun to be able to make these, and I'm super excited about getting a picture, and you guys can see these on top of that little isolette that the little babies are in right now. So anyways, we'll see you guys a little bit later. Let me know if you have made one of these kind of neonatal little blankets or quilts, and let me know how that goes. And I can't wait to hear all the tips and tricks that you have for being a mom or a grandma of preemie babies. So anyways, we'll talk to you guys a little bit later. Thanks so much.